Clarel DeGraff, Director and General Manager of PATH, and thank you for joining us tonight. In April, we introduced PATH Forward. It's a $430 million initiative to rebuild our track network, upgrade our rail car fleet, and rehabilitate our PATH stations. And we made two commitments to you at that time. One, we said that we would upgrade the PATH system to be more reliable and resilient. And two, that we would update you each step of this important journey. So we intend to be transparent and timely in getting you the information you need to plan and adjust your travel schedules as we build a better system. Tonight's conversation is one of several we'll be having with you as we roll out PATH Forward over the next 2 years. We look forward to your feedback and input because PATH Forward is an investment not only in our future, but in yours. We recently completed the first phase of this initiative, the rehabilitation of Grove Street Station. In the months ahead, we'll be making some service adjustments during select weekends to enable the infrastructure improvements. Next year, we will be closing our Hoboken and Newport stations for periods of time to perform major track and station repairs. This won't be an easy process on our customers, but we ask for your patience and your understanding. It's a 116-year-old system to operate in peak condition. It requires a high level of maintenance and reconstruction. So we appreciate your patience in the work that we're doing. And that can mean inconvenience and frustration for our customers. We know that. We'll do everything in our power to minimize the impact on all of you as we move forward. And one other thing before we start, our goal is to provide excellent service, which extends beyond the PATH Forward initiative. TAP, which is our new fare payment system, we introduced that in November, and now it accounts for about 50% of payments across the system. So we're very excited about that. The feedback that we've gotten from you and your fellow riders has been positive. We're delighted to share this new technology with our customers. We're also completing the addition of 72 new rail cars to our fleet. This is a 20% increase in fleet size over the past few years, and it allows us to run more nine-car trains on the World Trade Center to Newark line. What does that mean? That means less crowding. It means safer trains and more reliable service. I'm joined tonight by two key members of the PATH leadership team, Assistant Directors Damian McShane and Rebecca Rio. We're also joined by other colleagues from the Port Authority Communications and Community Relations team, as well as the Chief Operating Officer's Office. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Damian McShane, who leads our Capital Projects Department. Damian, you're on mute.
Thanks, Clarel. Sorry about that, everyone. Good evening. I'm Damian McShane. I'm the Assistant Director of Capital Programs for PATH. I'm here to go into a little more detail on what Clarel talked about, the infrastructure enhancements and rehabilitation efforts that are part of the PATH Forward program. Go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit about TAP, which is the Total Access PATH payment system. This allows our customers to use chipped credit cards or cell phones in lieu of a SmartLink card or a Metro card to access. It required that we modify turnstiles at each one of our stations to essentially read those fare media, and also a lot of back of house work so that we could process those payments through an entirely different system. Good news is we now have TAP turnstiles at every one of our stations. More stations or more turnstiles will be added at each of our stations over the summer, and our usage and the overall acceptance of the system has been overwhelming. 50% of our customers now use TAP on a regular basis, weekdays and weekend, and we've received an enormous amount of positive feedback. Again, as we continue to roll out this program, if you have any ideas, thoughts, feedback, we'll have additional outreach sessions. And of course, you can use the social media platforms to let us know if there's any issues, or just tell us if it's working for you. So go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about the infrastructure upgrades or the architectural rehabilitations that are ongoing at all of our New Jersey stations. We finished the Grove Street platform rehabilitation several weeks ago. This was 20 weekends of a quote unquote bypass service. We understand it was very inconvenient to our customers, but as you can see from the photo on the right, we have completely revitalized the Grove Street station. This is the first major investment we've made in the architectural finishes in over 40 years. We replaced all of the floor tiles. We've done extensive cleaning on the columns themselves, repaired the ceiling. We've added energy efficient lighting. All of that disruptive work is done. There is follow-up work that will be going on nights and weekends. We'll be taking down some of the temporary lighting, cutting over permanent LED lighting in other areas. There's also some additional work in the Marin corridor, but the project itself is substantially complete. And if you're a frequent user of Grove Street, I think you can notice that it is a much cleaner and a much brighter environment for your daily commute. The Newport station. Oh, going to Hoboken next. Go to Hoboken, that's good. Hoboken Station is the second of the rehab jobs that we have going on. In this case, we started with Staircase 9, which is the primary entrance from downtown Hoboken. We had to completely reconstruct that staircase. There was extensive damage caused in part by Hurricane Sandy, but also just wear and tear over the course of 100 years. We have completely reconstructed the stair itself. And as you can see from the photo again on the right, that we're in the process now of tiling, installing new railings, putting in stair treads. This is kind of the icing on the cake. All of that work will be done in mid-July, and that stair will reopen. Stair 10 is next on the construction schedule. We actually had rebuilt that shortly after Hurricane Sandy as part of a water mitigation strategy. That will only require retiling. Again, the physical stairs themselves had already been replaced. That will be a disruption for about 2 months. So 9 and 10, the two main entrances, will be completed and open early September. There is a lot of other work that will be going on at Hoboken. If you're using the station on the weekend, you'll note that Platform 1 is currently being rehabilitated. We're replacing flooring, we're doing painting and lighting on platforms, similar to what goes on at Grove. That work will continue on weekends only throughout the summer. And sometime in the first quarter of next year, we're going to start moving to the center platform and also working on the mezzanine level. Again, flooring, painting, lighting improvements throughout the station, which was significantly damaged as a result of Hurricane Sandy. 10 years later, we're continuing to see deteriorating conditions in our electrical distribution systems, in the finishes in the stations, and that is what is driving all of this work at Hoboken, at Grove. And then we go on to the next slide. I'll talk about Newport Station, which has the most detrimental, devastating, ongoing water intrusion issues in our entire system. Rather than just start replacing the assets there, the tiles, the stairs, the lighting, we've started by addressing the water intrusion issues there. The photo on the right shows a jet grout that is being installed throughout the station. So we have removed tiles on every side along the track, along the platforms. We have chipped away the ceiling finishes, and this allows us to, in a grid pattern, completely coat the exterior of the station through a jet grouting system. This was actually used first in this region at the South Ferry Station at New York City Transit. And given the positive results that they saw there, we used it here because, again, Newport has historically had water infiltration issues coming from our tunnels, coming from the groundwater, which is pushing into the station. When we're done with this work, which is ongoing on nights and weekends, we will start, again, a similar rehabilitation program to what's going on at Grove and is going on at Hoboken. That won't start until the middle of 2025, when we've essentially wrapped up Hoboken. We don't want to overlap these two projects if possible, trying to minimize the overall impacts to our customers. Similar to those stations, it's going to be ceiling patching and painting, column finishes and restoration. We're replacing stairs to the center platforms, if you're familiar with Newport, and also installing energy efficient LED lighting throughout the station. Next slide. The car overhaul program. So while we're upgrading the station, making them brighter, making them a little more pleasant for the riders, we totally understand that you spend the majority of your time on our trains, and maintaining the trains is a key part to our program, the Path Forward program, and we are focused on proactively creating a smoother, more reliable ride. Our trains vary in age. Even though we replaced the whole fleet 10 plus years ago, those trains came in, those individual cars were delivered and integrated into our fleet over about a 5-year period. So the age varies on those cars, and based on the wear and tear that we've seen on those initial cars, we now have a proactive program to replace the suspensions, the door mechanism, the braking and the propulsion systems before they start to fail. So we used historical data to determine what the critical point is before we started to see problems with the car, and we've made a sizable investment to ensure that we'll have reliable vehicles, comfortable vehicles, to ensure, again, you have a safe, reliable commute. We've already finished 220 of those cars. The remainder of the fleet will come in 2026. And it's also worth noting, we also just received and finished integrating and accepting 72 new cars. So our fleet has expanded from 350 cars to 422. And that will allow us to run longer trains. If you're on the World Trade Center to Newark line, you'll know that we have 9-car service now. That'll continue to expand over the next several months and into next year. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Reel, and I lead Path's customer experience team. This graphic I'm going to go over with you from left to right. It basically summarizes a lot of the updates that Damien gave. And I just want to reorient everyone to the work that we still have ongoing for the rest of this year. So if you follow me down to the first box, you can see as you go from left to right, the Newark to World Trade Center line. So again, from June through the fall, we do anticipate doing a lot of work, both path track work, but also our service is going to be impacted for work that our sister agency, Amtrak, is doing. So I did just want to call out, just like we've come and told you before, I actually have some good news. Originally, we were thinking that we would need to have 7 Sunday closures between Harrison and Journal Square, just like we had to do that a few times earlier this year and last fall. But I'm happy today to be able to say that we took a look at the schedule, we fine-tuned the work with Amtrak, and we've been able to shave that down from 7 Sunday outages to only 4 Sunday outages. So if you look in this box, you'll be able to see those 4 outages are 4 consecutive Sundays, and they start July 28th. So July 28th, and then August 4th, August 11th, and August 18th, we'll have those 4 Sunday outages between Harrison and Journal Square, again, instead of the 7. And that's to help support work for both PATH and Amtrak. If you jump up with me to the top box, again, through the spring and through November, again, for part of the Path Forward track replacement work that Path's doing, we are doing 40-minute service between Newark to Journal Square on the weekends with normal service everywhere else on our system. It'll be our regular schedule from Journal Square to both 33rd via Hoboken and from Journal Square to World Trade. But that 40-minute service is going to continue through November. That's again for substantial track work that Damien will go into in a few slides from now. And then if you move further right to the April to August box at Hoboken Station, just like Damien said, you'll continue to see work happening in the station itself, a lot of stairwell replacements, work on the platforms, new tiling and lighting. And then again, the bottom box, you can see it's completed. That's the Grove bypass work. So we were happy to be able to finish that a little bit ahead of schedule, by the end of June. I also want to reaffirm the Path Forward commitment that we made to you as our customers and are our number one priority. We do closely monitor the operations and the customer experience. We have a lot more customer service staff in the stations with customers every weekend. And we have reports that go all the way up to Path and Port Authority executive leadership. And we monitor and we come together as a team and we debrief after the weekend's work to see what our customers are saying, what the experience was, and we try to come up with ways that we can alleviate the pain points. We're also, actively looking for ways to make those efficiencies as we move through each subsequent phase of the work. So the bypasses are done, but we have now moved on to other sections of the work. Some you can see like out west and some you're feeling, the 40-minute service. And there's also a lot of work going on around the system that luckily is not noticeable to the customers. But we continue to monitor it all to try to make sure that we can do what we can to help improve the customer experience through this Path Forward program that we know has pain. And I am just happy to point out, a few areas that we have been able to really deliver on that commitment is, we were able to run a shuttle bus for limited mobility riders during the eastbound passes of Grove Street. If anyone was aware and was able to utilize that shuttle service, that's something we heard from you, our customers, and we know that the ridership going into New York was heavier than it was to go west. So we ran that shuttle bus service. We also were able to add more customer service staff to areas where we did see the crowding during the bypasses, notably at Exchange Place. And we, in addition to that, were able to, based on the feedback that you gave and the intense crowding that happened at Exchange Place as a result of the bypasses, we were able to temporarily add that additional Exchange Place to World Trade Center service. So those are just ways that, we are demonstrating our commitment, and we will continue to demonstrate that we will closely monitor the operations and deliver where we can alleviation of those pain points that you're telling us about. We do value your feedback. I also want to go into a little bit more of the remaining work. So if we go to the next slide, again, I might be repeating myself here, but I really want to make sure that we're giving our customers as much notice as possible. But here again are some more details on those 4 upcoming Sunday outages between Harrison and Journal Square. So really just want to make sure that we're raising awareness and we're giving you the information that you need to hopefully plan in advance. But again, those Sundays happen starting at the end of July. And again, it's due to priority work, Path is doing work and Amtrak's doing work. And so unfortunately we still have to have some outages, although we were able to limit them from 7 down to 4. And if we're able to limit them down further, once we have an outage or 2 done, we will certainly let everyone know. We would be happy to, again, continue to evaluate as we go. We will continue to offer the NJT Run shuttle bus for Path customers for free during the entire Sunday. That goes back and forth between Newark and Journal Square. And in addition, we are running a Path train between Newark and Harrison. So it's a quick trip, but it is helping to get people who are trying to go from Newark to Harrison and vice versa. And then in addition to that, we might have another mitigation we're working on, trying to see what else we can do for our Harrison customers. So if we're able to put another mitigation in place, we'll certainly let you know. And in addition to these outages, if we go to the next slide, I want to again bring awareness. I think a lot of our customers are going through it right now, but for the most part on the weekends, we are running 40-minute service. Again, between Newark and Journal Square. That is still going to be, just like we said before, most weekends, in fact, almost all weekends between now and November. You can check the Path Forward website and we've listed them out in detail for you here. And again, this is to help accommodate Path's open track work, as well as some work that Amtrak's doing. Their tracks are very close to our track, so we are always having to be in close coordination when either railroad is doing the work. So at this point, again, just wanted to make sure everyone was aware on what to expect for the rest of this year. We know these are major service impacts. At the end of the tunnel, Path will have a more reliable rail system, and we are committed to continually doing what we can and monitoring your feedback. So please continue to give us to that. And I'm going to turn it over to Damien to talk about upcoming work in 2025. But I do just want to remind everyone, we're taking questions. We'll take Q&A in just a few minutes. So if you do have questions, feel free to type them into the chat.
Thanks, Rebecca. Was able to work the mute button this time. I'm going to talk about the upcoming work in 2025, which will cause a significant disruption to our customers, in particular at Hoboken and Newport. I'll explain why we're having to do this work, how it's being coordinated. But the most important thing is to note that we will be shutting the Hoboken station down for 2 consecutive weeks with 3 weekend follow-up in the first quarter of 2025. We have seen a significant deterioration in our tracks from Hoboken, specifically to Newport. And in order to properly rehabilitate them, we need to close the tunnels down. We were going to gut all of the rail, fully replace that. So I talked a little bit about we have more reliable cars. We're creating a more pleasant environment in the station, but the tracks themselves are the lifeblood of the system. And in order to provide, again, safe, reliable, faster service with fewer disruptions, and it's important, in fact, at this juncture, it's critical that we do a full track replacement from Hoboken to Newport and actually towards New York City. During that closure at Hoboken, we will also be blitzing the station. So I talked a little bit earlier about replacing finishes on platform 1. We're going to be replacing the entire staircases that go down to the platforms from the mezzanine, and really throwing as many people as possible to do all of the tiling, all of the reflooring, and fully scrape and paint that station, given the opportunity that this track work affords us. We understand that it's going to be very disruptive, and we will be providing alternate service options to our customers. There'll be a lot of messaging between now and when this happens, a lot more information, but this will be ferry service, cross-honoring for passengers at Hoboken for going uptown, New Jersey Transit, cross-honoring as well for customers going to Newport or Exchange. New Jersey Transit will be cross-honoring on the Hudson Bergen Light Rail, and there'll be free shuttle bus services for all passengers on the overnight, because HBLR is not a 24/7 service as Path is. We're working out the details. New Jersey Transit is a trusted partner here. And again, more details will be forthcoming through Rebecca and her team. The other major service impacts for next year will be at the Newport station. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we will be completely replacing the staircases, doing extensive ceiling repair work, given all of the water damage over the last 40 years. That will require that we close portions of this station for up to 2 consecutive weeks. Once Hoboken is completely finished, sometime in the 3rd quarter of 2025. We do not have a contractor on board yet. We are currently out to bid on that. Once we bring them in, again, we'll start developing a plan to ensure that we minimize that impact and we maximize the output for the work. This will also include the replacement of track in the station, as well as mentioned, all of the finishes work and a completion of the flood mitigation measures that we've been working on over the last several months. Again, we're providing some level of alternate service, so customers going to Exchange or Hoboken, New Jersey Transit will be cross-honoring an HBLR. And similar, as I mentioned with Hoboken, we will be providing shuttle service during the overnight hours when HBLR is not operating. Go to the next slide.
Thanks, Damien. So
Thanks,
just to
Rebecca.
reiterate, exactly like Damien said, we're working on a number of mitigations to help get through some of these disruptions, which will be severe for Hoboken and Newport next year. And when we have all of those details worked out, we'll come back to share with you for those number of weekends for the Hoboken closures and up to several weeks closures over the summer and the fall. So again, right now we wanted to get this, again, raise awareness, make sure that it is on your radar that these closures are coming, and we will be releasing details on exactly all of your options as our customers. And I also want to share that as part of the planning that we're currently putting in to give mitigations, we want to hear from you so that we know which mitigations would really serve your needs best. So please, we're committed to keeping you informed. We want your feedback. You have a lot of ways to stay informed about what PATH's doing, so whatever your preferences are. And we also have a specific Path Forward survey to get information from our customers so that we can plan to best meet your needs. So again, a lot of ways you can stay updated here on this slide based on your preference. We have our Path Forward website. This has weekend service plans posted up to 5 or 6 months in advance. So you can go on that website and see what the weekend plans are going to be as you plan your trips. We also have the Ride Path app, which is my personal favorite. I'm a Path rider every day. I use it to get to work. And the Ride Path app is truly your one-stop shop to get all of our upcoming service plans, our real-time information, active service messages. So I can't stress enough how helpful the app is. And you can even enable push notifications on the app. So if you were used to getting Path SMS text alerts, or you like getting alerts, maybe you don't have the SMS alerts yet, but if you get the app, you can enable push alert notifications. So you have the benefit of getting those alerts in real time for the lines and during the times that you choose. You can customize those alerts. We also are active on social media. You can follow us on our account at PathTrain on X, formerly Twitter. You can also sign up for our Path Alerts SMS or email option. You can look for signage in stations. You can talk to our agents in the stations. They are the customer service staff wearing red shirts. And you can also continue to attend in-person and virtual town halls just like this. We'll be coming out next time in the fall. We'll share details as we solidify dates and locations. We are planning on doing a series of meetings in the fall, both virtual like this and in person, just like we did in the spring. And if you have feedback that you would, prefer to email to us or, free form, write it to us, you can always email us at pathcommunity@panyj.gov. You can also direct message us on Twitter or X. And we do have, again, on the app, a Ride Path app feedback form, so you can submit your feedback to us there as well. So feel free to share with us. Many of you do, and just know we read every message. And we do have, response guidelines for how soon we should be getting back to you. And we talk about our customer feedback, and I'm personally involved in a lot of the customer responses to make sure that we're giving accurate information and we're giving timely information. So please do continue to give us feedback. And if we go to the next slide, I'm actually going to take the opportunity to ask for some feedback right now, specifically, again, as we plan to communicate, in many different forums throughout the summer and into the fall. And as we plan our next round of these public information sessions in the fall, we are curious, what would best meet your needs. So we're going to have a live poll go up on your screen, and I invite you to take a few minutes to answer the questions, give us your feedback. But first, we really want to know how you prefer to get your updates about PATH. Do you use the app, or do you like to have the SMS text alerts, or do you follow us on social media? Having your preferences and the preferences of the more of our customers we can get, the better, will help us determine, our messaging strategy. And we're also going to ask for these public information sessions, how do you prefer to get that information? Do you prefer the in-person interactions with us, or are you happy with the virtual public information sessions where we share the same info and we also do Q&A? So again, having your preferences and our commitment to you as our customers to do everything we can to help communicate is really helpful for us. So we're going to launch those polls now. So you should see a pop-up on your device that's asking you, number one, how do you most prefer to get your updates on PATH? And then number two, do you prefer in-person or virtual public information sessions? And I'm going to give everyone a second to give us their feedback. And then maybe we can share that feedback as we're getting it in real time on the screen. Ah, okay, great. So it looks like the majority of everyone on the call today is using the app, which is great. And the text messages or the email alerts. So that's really helpful to know. Less so on social media. And in station signage is helpful too, a little bit. That's great. And then, yes, I see a lot of people on this virtual session. You do enjoy the virtual sessions. So that's also great feedback. We will continue to offer virtual sessions. Thank you. And again, we'll come back for in-person as well. Okay. So thank you for that feedback. At this time, we're going to open it up for Q&A. Again, please type your questions in the chat. And at the end of the survey, please know, or I'm sorry, at the end of the presentation, please know we are going to share a survey. Again, I took the opportunity to get your feedback now on your preferences for how you get PATH information, but we have a little bit of a longer survey. It's just a few questions, but it's going to come up on the screen in a few minutes as part of a QR code, and that's specific. It has a few more details that we'd like your input on for the path forward work and the mitigation efforts and how you'll be impacted. So again, I just ask that if you have a few minutes now or in the future, if you could fill out that survey for us. We want to make sure we're getting a lot of customer feedbacks as we help plan what the mitigations will look like for those specifically Hoboken closures happening in the first quarter of next year and Newport.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. All right, we're going to move forward with our question and answer period. So with us this evening, we have Zach McHugh, who's the Chief of Intergovernmental Affairs for the Port Authority. We've got Damian McShane, the Assistant Director of PATH for Capital Programs. Rebecca Reel, Assistant Director of Passenger Communications and Customer Experience. And Morgan Keene, the Program Director, Customer Experience and Strategy and Execution for the Port Authority. All right. So we're going to begin this evening with a question from Victoria. Victoria asks, are you planning on allowing seniors to link their senior SmartLink card to TAP, similar to what the MTA does with Omni, so seniors can use mobile devices versus a card?
Yep, I can take that one. So we do fully intend to launch a TAP a TAP senior card as well. So our seniors will be able to maintain their discount program. It will be migrated in the future. We don't have a set date yet, but we will give ample notice and we'll do proactive outreach to our senior SmartLink card members, and we'll help transition every one of them over to a TAP senior discount card. And I also want to just share, currently, even though we have TAP installed at our systems, we also are still accepting SmartLink cards at every station as well, for the time being. So anyone who has a senior SmartLink card can continue to use it now. And then again, in the future, we'll be reaching out to help all of those customers migrate to a TAP senior card.
Thank you. I guess this question is probably for Rebecca and Damien. George asks, when will the midday and weekend frequency be increased to more frequently than every 20 minutes?
Yep, so I'm happy to respond to that one as well. So that's something we hear a lot, and we know that the service frequency is not as often, it's definitely not as frequent during peak period. We are 24/7 railroad, so we have to do a lot of maintenance work as well as this path forward and some other capital work. So it's always a struggle on when we can do the work to ensure we can continue the railroad 24/7 with where our ridership demand is. Right now, we have to do that work, off peak, so middays and overnights and weekends. And we know that's not ideal for those customers, but it's a way that we can best balance all the work while still being able to move the ridership demand. We will continue to monitor and make improvements, like I said, where we can. But right now, with all the work and what we can do, this is what our service levels are. But once the improvements are made, and Damien talked about the car overhaul program, we talked about having more reliable systems, more 9-car trains coming in the future. PATH is trying very hard to find ways to be able to alleviate the off-peak, those overnights, weekends, and midday pain points.
Yeah, I would just add, Rebecca, during those windows that she discussed, we do a lot of other work. We're mandated by the Federal Railroad Administration to do a full inspection of the railroad on a weekly basis. We do a lot of spot maintenance work again in those windows between the rush hours and the overnights. And that's one of the reasons that we have more extended headways. It allows our maintenance crews and our inspectors to get in the tunnels and safely perform work.
All right, thank you. We have another question from one of our attendees related to the cars. They're asking, is there consideration being given to upgrading to open gangway cars as a means of increasing capacity and lessening the crowding on trains?
No, we have made a sizable investment over the last 15 plus years in the new fleet. We have retrofitted the cars so that they are compatible with the new signal system. And as I noted earlier, we just received the last 72 cars that our manufacturer, our partner Kawasaki, was able to make available to us. I would not anticipate a replacement of our current fleet for many, many years at this point.
All right, Damien, thank you. I'll give this question to Morgan and Rebecca. George asks, in relation to the Hoboken closures, will the 126 bus be cross-honoring? And for passengers on the Manhattan end, will there be cross-honoring for the New York City subway?
Yeah, so like we mentioned a little bit earlier, we are exploring every mitigation, feasible for our customers. We're certainly going to offer as many options as we can, and that includes doing our best to work with Transit, New Jersey Transit, to cross honor where they can, and also run cross honoring with the ferries, as well as PATH plans on running our own shuttle buses to help. We are in active discussions with the New Jersey Transit. They've been great partners with us in the past. The 126 bus is something that we've been talking a lot about. And even if New Jersey Transit is unable to add capacity to that line, PATH is looking at running a similar shuttle bus, a bus that would mimic the 126. So, stay tuned for all the details. We'll come back to you over the summer and into the fall, but we are looking at a bus that will take customers from Hoboken right to Midtown, as well as, the ferry cross honoring and additional shuttle buses. Right now, we don't have plans to cross honor with the MTA. Again, we're always trying to explore options. We don't have an agreement with them to do that, but that's why your feedback on that survey is really important. So when that QR code comes up, and maybe we can put it up now, we really ask, questions you'll see will speak to that point, and you have an opportunity to give us input on what would work for you in terms of mitigations.
All right, thank you. I'll pose this question to Zach and Morgan. Charles expresses a concern given the recent developments related to congestion pricing. If there is any concern on the part of PATH about the funding that is required to carry out the work that's been outlined tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy to field that one. No, there's no concern on funding for the program that we were just speaking about. PATH would not have received funding from congestion pricing. So it doesn't the infinite pause, I think is what they're calling it, doesn't affect our funding. And this funding has been approved by the board, and we are going full steam ahead. So we're in very solid ground here.
All right, thank you. I'll pose this question to Rebecca. We have an attendee tonight who is asking if any consideration is being given to the restoration of direct Journal Square to 33rd Street service on the weekends.
Yeah, so right now when we plan our service, again, it's always back to that constant struggle on going to where we hear that our customers are and where they need service and the work that's happening. So we look at, on a regular basis, where the constraints are at our system based on all the work that's happening at any given time. And we look and see, from our ridership data, where our riders are coming and going. And so we are able to adjust service, periodically to meet where that demand goes. And it's something that we'll continue to look at in the future. But again, we have a lot of work ahead of us now. You can see some of it, but a lot you can't. It's definitely happening in those tunnels. We only have 2 tunnels, so 2 tracks. One typically goes uptown, one typically goes downtown, and between all the maintenance that we have to do and the service needs that we're trying to balance, right now we struggle to add a direct line because of where the work happens right now. But if that changes and as the program progresses, we will continue to evaluate.
Thank you. I'll pose this question to Morgan. George asks, when the TAP system becomes fully live, will customers be able to trade SmartLink cards for the TAP card at no extra cost?
Yeah, and I'm going to throw that one right back to Rebecca because I just am not as familiar with our transition plans, and I want to make sure that you get the accurate information.
Yep. So we're actively talking about our transition plan. We don't have the details fully worked out, but that's something we're looking at. We definitely want to encourage customers to use TAP. And when the TAP card comes out to replace SmartLink, which again, we'll give ample notice for that. It's going to happen in the future. We'll articulate, what those plans will be, but we're looking at a myriad of strategies to help encourage customers to migrate towards TAP, and that's one of them.
Thank you. This question is for Damien. Damien, we have a few attendees tonight who are asking why some of this work can't occur overnight as opposed to during the weekends.
So the rehabilitation of the track in particular is extensive. We are removing and replacing from the track bed up. So in some cases that's concrete, in some cases that's stone. We will be pouring a new concrete bed to ensure a smoother, more level ride when we replace all these assets. And we just don't have the ability to do that and restore service the following morning. In some cases, we will not even be able to restore service on a Monday morning, which is why we're looking to take Hoboken out of service for a 10 consecutive day period. It is an extensive rehabilitation, which will replace an asset and to leave it in a state of good repair for the next 50 years. That's how critical this job is at this juncture. Again, we understand how significant the inconvenience is, but it's warranted given the condition of the track and the need for us to restore a safe and reliable service environment.
Thank you, Damien. We also have a few attendees this evening who are asking whether or not all of this work may increase their fares. Rebecca, would you like to take that one?
Sure. So at this point, the Port Authority doesn't have plans to raise fares. This work was approved by the board without any expectation that it would need to increase your fare.
Damien, I'm going to pose this one to you. We've got an attendee, Anne, is asking for possibly an update on the PATH substation work over by Newport.
If you're talking about in the Powerhouse area, the Powerhouse Arts District, we're going to complete some of the tunneling efforts which have been ongoing. We understand they've been very noisy. A lot of that work has had to take place on the weekends to ensure that we do not impact the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. We are actually tunneling underneath the Hudson Bergen Light Rail tracks so that we can run new power distribution cables to our tunnels. We will start erecting steel and moving back to, I'm going to call it a more traditional 9 to 5 schedule. Those aren't the exact work hours. They start at 7, they end at 3. But we will move away from any weekend work once we get that tunneling done, actually this month. And you'll start to see the building come up out of the ground. That job will not be completed until the end of 2026. But our goal now is to have a structure and a fully encased building by the first quarter of next year. So I know it's loud. I know there's dust. A lot of that goes away once the steel structure is in place. We'll continue to see deliveries to the site. Occasionally, we will have to change the traffic patterns on Washington and the adjacent street. But again, by the end of this year, early first quarter, most of the disruptive work, the noisy work will be completed and the building itself will be erected.
All right, thank you, Damien. Morgan, this question is from you. Barbara asks how we are going to provide replacement services for Sundays in which there are no trains running between Newark and Journal Square.
Yep, and it's all on our website. Rebecca went over it quickly today, but there will be cross-honoring with New Jersey Transit between Newark and Journal Square. And we're also planning to run a train shuttle service between Harrison and Newark so that customers can link up to that New Jersey Transit service. But really encourage everyone to get familiar, put it on one of your favorites, the Path Forward website. That's where we're going to be publishing all upcoming service modifications and all the mitigations that are in place that you can find.
Yep, and I just want to add to what Morgan said, and she's right. New Jersey Transit will cross-honor us on train, so you can ride New Jersey Transit train from Newark to New York Penn, just like you could during previous shutdowns like this. And they're running a shuttle bus between Newark and Journal Square, which would be free for customers as well. So you have a couple options.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Morgan. Damien, this question is for you. We have one of our attendees tonight is asking, will all of this work fix the slow speeds lately on path?
That's specifically what the track work is going to address. So we reduce the speeds of our trains again to ensure safe, reliable service. And when we have track conditions that reach a certain point of deterioration, just to be safe, we reduce the speed of the trains. Not significantly, but it adds up. This track work will eliminate those slow speed orders. There's been a significant focus on our quote unquote outside track between Newark and Journal Square. You'll start to see service improvements there by the fourth quarter of this year. And when the work is completed in the tunnels, specifically from Hoboken going uptown or from Hoboken towards Newport, it's not going to be a 50-mile-an-hour train. But again, you'll see the elimination of the speed reductions as we hit certain pockets of the railroad. If you're a regular rider, I'm sure you're very familiar with areas in our system where our trains slow down. Again, that's more of a safety measure. Not that the trains are unsafe today, but we are going to upgrade and enhance the infrastructure to eliminate the need to do that going forward. And you will see a smoother ride and less slowdowns. I don't want to say a faster ride. You may cut a couple minutes off between 33rd and Hoboken, but it'll certainly be a smoother, more reliable, slightly faster trip.
Thank you, Damien. We have another attendee this evening who's asking if there's going to be a fixed date to stop the use of SmartLink cards at turnstiles. Rebecca?
So there will be, but we don't have that date yet. And it won't be imminent. So again, we will give ample notice for when that transition period happens. There will be a substantial transition period of at least a month, if not more. And we will, once we have that date, come and share with it. So it won't be something that we turn overnight. There's going to be an extensive transition period and a lot of outreach to update customers on when that date is.
Great. Rebecca, and this will have to be our final question of the evening. One of our attendees is asking if there are any plans to speed up the transfer between 33rd and World Trade Center lines. They note that there's currently at times a 20-minute long wait Journal Square Grove during off-peak periods.
I'll have to look at that and digest that question a little bit, but to see if it's related to some of the work. But what I can say is, again, based on how the work progresses and where the work goes, looking at the constraints on our system through each phase of the work also gives us the opportunity to help see where we might be able to add a little service or shave off some of that wait time. So we'll continue to do that. And again, if you just email the PATH community at PANYNJ, and then I'll take another look at that question specifically.
All right, thank you. And as I noted, that'll be our last question for the evening. I'd like to thank all of our panelists tonight. With that, Rebecca, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending. There might be some questions we didn't get to tonight. If you have questions, again, feel free to email us or DM us. You know, we are committed. We will get back to you with a response. And again, we're coming to you again in the fall. So we'll have another chance for public Q&A virtually as well as in person. So please, even though this session is ending, we're here to answer your questions. You know, just follow up with us after through again, our social media or our PATH community email, or even that ride PATH feedback form. And again, if you could just take a few minutes and fill out this survey, it's just a few questions, but it's giving us a lot of insight to help us plan the customer mitigations for our service changes, notably Hoboken and Newport. And also it's giving us insight into how you prefer to get information about PATH so that we can do some more targeted messaging. And the QR code is here now, but if you aren't able to do that now, or if you want to share a link with your network, your friends and family, we have the link to the survey as well, and we can drop it into the chat maybe, or follow up and make sure we post the link out through all of our customer service channels. So you'll be seeing ways to fill out the survey again in the future. And with that, I want to thank everyone again for joining. Again, you can always reach out to us. You can email us. You can message us on social media. You can call us. You can talk to us in the stations. Please look at the Path Forward website. Stay tuned for more information over the summer. And then again, please share this survey, take it yourselves, and share it with your family and friends who also ride Path. Thanks again, everyone.